Hello, everybody. It's good to be here. Uh, a few words of introduction first. I'm an SN3 modeler. I live in the village of Shiloh, Illinois, which is a part of the greater St. Louis area. And I'm a 30-year Air Force veteran. So with that, let's share my screen. Okay, here we go. We're going to talk about photo stacking here, and my discussion is going to be related almost entirely to the use of your camera phone. And while much of this can be done, all of it really can be done with a conventional single lens reflex camera that is a digital camera. I'm not going to address the cameras at all. I'm going to strictly stay with the smartphone camera, which is a very forgiving camera. It's easy to use. It's relatively inexpensive compared to the single lens reflexes, and it's appropriate for taking pictures for magazines such as a Gazette. Bob Brown fully endorses the use of your smartphone. So let's get started. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at photo stacking, have a little definition here and decide what it is. Then I'll show you some photographic examples of what's been done or what I've done. And then we'll take a look at the equipment that's required, some software that is available out there. And then when we get through with that, I'm going to walk you through step by step. I'm going to select a scene from my railroad. We're going to set up the camera. We're going to go step by step through creating a photograph that's where every focal plane is represented and the entire photo is in focus. Well, depth of field. It's been the nemesis of the model railroader. We've always been fighting this issue. Ideally, a pinhole, perfect depth of field, but very fuzzy. We used to invest in lenses we could take it down to f/28, f/22. But when we do that, we need our focus tends to be a little bit soft due to diffraction. We have to usually do a time exposure. There's all kinds of compromises. We can sharpen the focus by going back to an f/8 or an f/11, but it's a trade-off. Once we do that, then we lose our depth of field. And this was a constant fight we were dealing with until digital photography came along. And now we have the capability to get software that'll change the whole nature of model photography. So what is photo stacking? Well, photo stacking is the technique that allows photographers to create a single image where all the objects in that image on various focal planes within that image are in focus. It involves shooting several photos multiple times from the same position, and that's called focus bracketing. And then these images are loaded into a software program that composites them and gives us a single image where everything in that image is in perfect focus. And that's called photo stacking. I'll talk about focus bracketing a little bit later in the presentation. Okay, in the simplest form, here's a graphic that kind of explains what we're doing. We have here an imaginary forest, and we're going to take 3 photographs of this forest. First one, we're going to get the foreground trees in focus. Second photo, mid-ground trees are in focus. Lastly, we focus on the background. Then we take those 3 photographs and we drop it in the software, and the software stacks those photos into a composite photo where everything is in focus. But let's take a look at something more of interest to us. A while back, Brooks Stover with the NASG asked me to do a photo for him for a promotional thing for the S-Gagers in the Craftsman. And so I started working on this photo. And what you have here is a photo that is probably all the way to the back wall, and the background is probably represents maybe 18 feet of length. And so what I've done is to create this, I took 15 photos of this particular scene. And what I'm going to show you here is I'm going to show you 4 of those photos, and then we'll composite them. So here's the first photo. And in this first photo, I have focused on the immediate foreground. And in this case, it's the lower right, the track and the ballast. So I focused on that. And then with the second photograph, I focused on the locomotive. And here you can see the lower right ballast in the foreground is slowly getting a little bit fuzzy. We've got a good focus on the locomotive. And then I'm going to focus on the second log car. And in this photo, second log car is in focus. And actually on the same focal plane as the second log car is the climax in the background hauling the caboose. And so it's in perfect focus at this point. And I could have as well focused on that, but in this case, I focused on the second log car. So on my last photograph, I am focusing on the caboose and getting that in focus. And I eventually probably would have focused on the background at some point in time. Remember, I originally took 15 photos. So I take those 15 photos and I put them into the software program that stacks these things. And I get a photo where everything is basically in focus, as you see here. Now, granted, this Brooke Stover photoshopped it to add the smoke, but otherwise it's exactly as I presented it to him. And the photo itself is pretty near perfect. In hindsight, several months afterwards, I noticed right here there's a slight artifact where you've got a little fuzziness on the trestle bent. But had I noticed that originally, I would have probably redone it and easily eliminated it. Okay, here's a few more examples. Here's another scene from the layout. This was done at the request of PBL for a back cover they did. And here we're talking about around 25 feet of length. I focused, I think I did 20 photographs of this particular scene and composited them and came up with what you see here. Just about everything's in focus. There's an aisleway here, and here's another part of the layout quite a ways away. Here's another scene, kind of the same thing, but a lot closer, and we're down to about maybe 18 feet to the back wall. I've got a lot of noise going on back here with the bookcases and so forth that eventually Bill Peters photoshopped out. But I've done the same thing, as I took 20 photographs and focusing first on the pine tree and then on the park bench, the crab shack, the vehicle, the Heisler vehicle, and etc. until I worked my way back in the photograph. As I work my way back, I tend to create more space between photos, between focal planes, because it's not as necessary to have your focal planes as close, but it all works out pretty well. And this is the final shopped version. It came out very light, but it's something that Bill Peters did to the photograph, and he seemed to be happy with it. So he's happy, I'm happy. So macro photography, or the desire to take small things, pictures of small things close up, which we've been doing for a long time, now is possible to do this and have a perfectly in focus photograph. So now what do we need to do this? Not a whole lot, and it's not very expensive. So what do you need? First of all, you need a tripod, because we need to take all of those photographs from the same position. We don't want the camera to move between all those photographs. We need a smartphone or a camera that can shoot in the manual mode. That is, you can manually focus the lens of the camera. I understand with some of the newer high-end 35 millimeter single lens reflexes, they have the software built into them that will do focus bracketing and focus stacking. I have never experienced using one of these things, but I understand that capability is out there. Then we need some software for focus stacking, for stacking the photos, and we need a computer that will host the software that's going to do the magic. So here's a look at some of the pieces of equipment. Of course, probably most of us have a tripod lying around somewhere, so you don't probably need to buy one of those. The only thing you really need to look at is you need some way to mount your phone on that tripod, and that requires a little spring-loaded clip like you see here. And if you roam the internet, you can find any number of these items, and they run between $10 and $20. And if you shop around a little bit, you can buy a remote shutter release, which you see here. I bought my unit, and two of these came along at no extra cost. One of those buttons is for the Android, and the other button is for the Apple. But that's an optional item. You don't need that. This is another form of tripod, and I forget the name of these things, but they come in all different sizes. And put this in the back of your mind because I'm going to address it later. I can think of all kinds of neat possibilities for using this gizmo right here that comes in all different sizes. Down here is a stylus. It's got a rubber ball at the end, and it is sensitive to, or the screen on the back of your phone is sensitive to the touch of that rubber ball like it is to your finger. So if you're fat fingered, and you may want to use something like this. Again, it's optional, but it allows you to be more precise in how and when you trigger the phone. So that's the equipment. Now let's take a look at the photo stacking software. Helicon Focus was probably one of the originators for the photo stacking software. It's a very fancy, lot of bells and whistles. It is a software program you actually purchase and you load in your computer. It goes for $115, but that's a lifetime subscription, if you will. You can also rent this by the month or the year. It is a piece of equipment I own, I've used a lot, but there's also free software out there that does the same thing. It works, by the way, on a Mac or a PC. The focus stacking software down here is free. There are any number of programs out there. Just look around, shop in your, go to your app store and look up photo stacking. The Focus Stacker is a free program that also mounts in your computer. But the difference is that the Focus Stacker and Focus Stacker Online, although they're in the computer, all they provide is a window, a portal, if you will, to the cloud, wherein lies the magic that happens. So what you're doing is you're really dropping your photographs onto this app, and it's going up to the cloud where all the magic occurs, and then it comes back into your computer as a finished piece. Whereas this unit, all the magic goes on with Helicon Focus in your computer. So having said that, let's do a step-by-step and stack a photograph. Okay, first of all, here's my tripod, and that's my clip unit that I've set my camera in, and I've set it in front of a scene and kind of set up a composition here of what I want to take. And what we're dealing with here is a bench that is approximately 30 inches deep. And so we're probably talking, since the camera's angled, maybe taking a picture that's about 36 inches deep. And the only other thing I'll mention here is that we want to take a look at lighting. Now, I mentioned earlier that the smartphones on your camera, the cameras on your smartphones are very forgiving. They're wonderful at compensating for bad light. They do a white balance pretty good automatically. So they're very forgiving. But once in a while, if you add a little bit of light, it'll really make the scene pop. So take a look at it, try it. I have here a couple of lamps. One has a 250-watt photo flood in it. The other has a 500-watt photo flood. And in most cases, it's too much lighting. You've got to be very careful because it really it looks very harsh on the photo and it doesn't work. So I tend to bounce it off the ceiling. And sometimes I'll just simply take those photo flood bulbs out and put in a 100-watt bulb and use that. You don't have to have photo flood. Finally, if you do use extra lighting, or even in the case of using your room lighting, take a look for unrealistic shadows because they can kind of screw the photo up. And of course, some of the best lighting we have is outside. So if you're taking a picture of a module or a model, and you can take it outside, particularly on an overcast day, that really works well. Okay, now we're ready to take our shot. So here's a screenshot of my phone. It's an iPhone, but they all work basically the same. So here's the scene, and you can see I've got about a magnification 1.7 here, and we're looking at the scene, and here if you start with the foreground car here and look all the way back in the scene to this back tree, you're talking about maybe 36 inches. Now, for you, as most of you understand, the way you focus a camera phone is you touch it. You touch the area that you want to focus on. So the procedure here is to touch the item, say the truck, the roadster, and then touch the trigger or the shutter, and that completes the photograph. So when you touch the car to focus it, a little square rectangle will appear around your cursor, indicating its focus there. And then you come over here, press that, and the photo is complete. So what are we going to do here? We've got about 36 inches of space. I've decided to take 10 photographs. So that means that we're going to, if you divide that space by 10, you get about a 3 inches plus. So I'm going to have 10 focal planes in this photograph, and I'm going to start at the front, work towards the back, and those focal planes are going to be about 3 inches apart. So what I'm going to do here is I'll start, say, with this roadster, and I'll focus on it. I'll touch it, which focuses. I'll touch the shutter. Then I'll come over here and perhaps 3 inches in, maybe let's say it's the Model A Roadster. So we'll touch it, press the shutter release. Then we might move another 3 inches or 3.5 inches over to the Combine, touch it. And we slowly work our way back in this photo, focusing on various options until we've worked our way all the way back and taken 10 pictures. There's nothing magic about 10. That's just about what I wanted. I could do 8, I could do 7, I could do 4, I could do 20. It doesn't matter. But 10 is more than ample for this particular photo. So now I have 10 photos in my camera with 10 focal planes, all spaced about 3 inches apart. Now in this photo, it's the same photo, same photo shot. I've simply reminded you what I've done by numbering where I've touched and in what sequence. I don't think the sequence is important. I think you can start from the back to the front, front to the back, but I tend to do it either one way or the other. So here comes the rubber-tipped stylus. And since you're constantly touching the back of the screen and you're trying to focus on specific items, it's a lot easier to have this in your hand and when you're punching the back of the screen than with your finger. Not necessary, but nice to have. Okay, so where are we? We have our camera phone and it's got 10 photos in it that we want to transfer to our computer because the computer is where the software is that's going to do the magic. The next step is to transfer those 10 photos to our computer, and you can do that any number of ways. You can send yourself an email message with the attachments. You can hardwire it, which I did, any number of ways to accomplish that task. Now here's a screenshot of my computer screen, and you can see the 10 photos right here that I've loaded into the computer. And I have also called up Focus Stacker. This is that software program that I got free off the internet. And there's only one screen in this app, and you're looking at it. And it says to add source images, drag and drop them here or choose an import option from the file menu. I'm going to drag and drop. That's this is all there is to it. So I've taken all these guys and they're on their way here over here. I'm going to drop them there. I drop it and it flashes. It goes up to the cloud. It stays there for about 5 seconds and it comes back to you as a finished photograph. It's truly amazing. And there it is. Everything is in focus. It's not difficult. It's really, really simple. Here's another series of 10 photos, same scene. The white balance is a little bit different here. And the angle from my camera is a little bit different. But you can see that everything is pretty well in focus and you have no fuzziness anywhere. So that's basically it. It's really simple. Now, there's something else I want to talk to you about, and that is that if you're not aware of it, there are all kinds of apps that you can load into your camera that will enhance the capabilities of that camera. It'll provide you the ability to change the aspect ratio, change the file type, do white balance with a slide thing. You can do change the ISO, change the speed, change the f-stop. It's amazing. All this capability resides in your camera. You just can't see it. But if you go on into your app store and look for various programs like these, you can load them on your iPhone and use that to take your pictures. And you have all kinds of capability. And now herein lies a interesting thing we found recently, and that is focus bracketing, which I mentioned earlier. Some of these options, such as this one and this one, are free, or you can buy pro versions at a price. Among all the attachments and the capability they have, focus bracketing is included. And this is really amazing. These pieces of software, you can set it on focus bracketing, tell it that I want to take this picture, I want to take 10 photos of this scene, and it will calculate the focal planes, the distance between focal planes, and you hit the shutter release and it goes click, 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 click the number of times that you've asked for a photo. And so it's done all that work for you. Again, this is optional. You don't need this. It's kind of a lazy man feature, but it has a lot of applications that make life really easy. And the thing I'm thinking of is this. Remember that tripod with the flexible legs on it? I am thinking that you could take that. Well, let me talk about that just a little bit later here. Anyway, focus bracketing, it's the optional software. It automatically takes the photographs. You decide on the number of exposures and it computes what it needs. Now here is a screenshot of Camera Pixels is the particular app I'm using. Now this has all kinds of bells and whistles on it. You can figure out the file type you want. You've got the 1/60th of a second. You've got you can choose your ISO, what have you. But more importantly, you can pick out the mode. And in this case, I'm doing focus bracketing. You can see the shutter set up for multiple exposures, and I can tell it what I want to do. And it'll do the same thing it did for me before, but automatically. I only have to hit this shutter one time. Now, getting back to this little tripod I'm thinking of, they come as short as maybe 3 or 4 inches high. And I'm thinking, you can take pictures of your layout from angles that you'd never otherwise be able to do. You could take that tripod and set it right here in this scene and have it aimed down Main Street of my town of Beaver Creek. And that would be very awkward to hit 20 times. In other words, if you're taking 10 photos, you'd have to hit focus once, then hit the shutter. That would be 2 times 10, 20 times. You've got to hit that camera. You have all kinds of possibilities for moving it, setting it ajar. But if you had this software loaded in here and you had that camera focused down, you'd simply have to hit the shutter one time and it would sit there, aim down Main Street and take 10 photos for you. And you'd be all set. So anyway, interesting option. So let's review the software. The only thing you need to stack your photos is one of these items here, Helicon Express Photo Stacker or Focus Stacker Online. There are others you may find online. That's the only thing you need, and they are computer-based. Nice to have is focus bracketing software, camera pixels, or open camera. And then there are any number of such as pro camera apps out there that don't focus bracket, but they do enhance the capabilities of your camera. So with that, let me leave you with one last photo. And this is a very shallow photo. There's only five focal planes, excuse me. We're talking about a distance from front to back of around 15 inches. And there you have it.